What's up guys, Ryan here from Mud Gunner. Today I wanted to show you guys how to disassemble and reassemble an AR-15, and this will basically work with almost every AR out there. I am using one that I've kind of built up. This is an LMT Mars lower with a Knights Armament SR16 upper. So it's an AR build, but most should be the same. But before I get into it, I wanted to tell you guys about my website. So I have a website called atroxco.com, and on there I sell some apparel that I come out with and some pretty cool designs. So if you guys are looking to support the channel, go ahead and check that out. I have all the inventory updated on there. I've come out with a few designs in the past, and some of the shirts I have different sizes. So yeah, at least go check it out. And if you order a hoodie or a jacket on there, I will send out a free Mud Gunner patch. These aren't on the website yet, but they will be on the website at some point. Everyone that orders a jacket or a hoodie will get one of these patches for free. I'm kind of limited on quantities of those jackets and hoodies, and as of right now I'm not doing any more because we are getting later into the season. So yeah, with that being said, let's get into the disassembly. Before we get into it, here's that patch that I will give you if you order a jacket or hoodie from the website, so go check that out. It's a nice PVC Velcro patch. So now we'll get into the disassembly. So make sure your gun's clear, which I already checked that mine was, but you have two pins right here. So you have your rear takedown pin and you have your front. Sometimes it's easier to take down your rear first. Fronts can be a little picky, but once you have the rear takedown pin out, you can pivot your upper and take most of the gun apart this way, but we are going to separate the upper and lower, so you're also going to press your front takedown pin out, and they are captured. So once you have them out, they don't go any further. You can push them back in. Just make sure you pull them out before you put the gun back together. And then your bolt carrier group, you pull your charging handle back. You can pull your bolt carrier group out the back and it falls down, and then your charging handle comes back and then it'll fall down out of a groove. So when you're putting it back in, you're gonna have to put it in the big hole. It'll find a little groove right in here and pop into place. So we'll get back to that. And then as far as the rest of your lower goes, you can take your buffer spring out. I like to do this just to wipe it down. You can see it's a little dirty right there. So if you just press with your thumb, you can push down right here. And when you push down, your spring will come out. And then you can just pull this out. Sometimes it gets stuck on that a little bit, but yeah, that pin is holding your buffer and spring in there, and it's under spring tension. And that's as far as I go for the lower. You don't need to take anything else apart. I just like to wipe this down, maybe put some fresh oil on there to keep it running slick. Sometimes if your tube doesn't have any oil or grease in there, it makes it sound very gritty when you charge the weapon. So when you pull the charging handle back, sometimes it can sound gritty. If you have that issue, a little bit of grease or oil does help. And then as far as the bolt carrier group goes, so you have a little takedown pin right here, and I actually have a pen in my pocket. Sometimes it can be hard to use your fingernail, but just use any pointed object. I'm using a pen, and just pull this out. So this holds your firing pin in place. You just pull that out the side, and then once you have that out, your firing pin can come out the back. Mine just fell right out. If yours is really dirty, you can tap it or kind of pry it out. But yeah, mine just fell right out the back. It's a little dirty. I'll just wipe it down, but this gun doesn't need to be cleaned, but I'll wipe it down while I have it apart. And then once you have the firing pin out, that was holding this pin in place. This is your cam pin. Push your bolt back, and you see it's in a position where you can't take it out, but you just turn it. Yeah, so once you turn it sideways, that'll allow you to take it out. It's a little slick, but yeah, that comes out, and that's holding your bolt in place. So once you have that out, you can just pull your bolt out the front. And that is the main disassembly. One thing I like to do is I like to take the extractor off and clean up under there, because sometimes it can get a little dirty under there. This one's not dirty, but to take it out, ideally you just need your firing pin, and you can push from the side and it'll come out. Now this looks slightly different than a standard AR-15 one, but this is exactly how an AR-15 one comes apart. And then you just pull this pin out, which might be a little tough. So firing pin normally can get it all the way out or halfway out so you can grab it. If not, then you might need a punch or something else small, and mine is very slick, so I am going to get a punch real fast. So yeah, if you have a little difficulty, sometimes you can get them out when they're halfway, but it's very slick right now. I have this little punch right here. You can get creative if you don't have one of these, but this will just push it all the way out. And then from here, your extractor comes off. Some might have springs under them. Knights Armament has 2 springs under theirs, but a lot of standard AR-15s do not have any springs. But if you have springs, just make sure they stay in the same orientation when you put them back together. But yeah, from this point, your whole AR is disassembled. There's nothing else you need to take apart. If you have a piston gun, you might look up how to take the piston out of your gun to clean it. Those normally come out the front, and I don't want to get my camo all dirty. But if your gun is piston, there is normally a rod that comes out the front of maybe under your rail. Various guns have different piston systems, but this is how to take apart a standard AR-15. So let me get the gun cleaned up and my hands wiped down, and then I'll put it back together for you guys. All right, now as far as putting it back together goes, I'm gonna oil it with this Hoppy's number 9 oil. It's like one of the most iconic oils. This bottle still looks like it was from the 80s, but they still look like this to this day, which is pretty funny. So I'm gonna put the bolt back together first. So we got our extractor here, got our bolt. I'm just gonna line this up on there. And then you got your retaining pin right here. So with this having springs, you're gonna have to push down and line that hole up with the bolt. It's not too bad, just don't drop this and lose it, because again, the gun will not function without it, that tiny little part. And just line it up flush. Now the bolt is back together. We can stick it in the carrier, and before I put it in there, I can put a little oil on there. So that'll keep it lubricated, because it does move in here. Kind of spin it around. When you're reassembling this, you need to make sure your extractor is facing the right side of the bolt carrier group till you see that hole line up. So only goes in one way. You really can't mess that up, because the other side is too small to fit the pin in. So just line that up, and then we'll take our cam pin right here, put some oil on this. Doesn't have to be too much. We'll drop that in. You're going to put it in long ways and then turn it, and then your firing pin will fit through that little hole. So put it in long ways, and then we'll turn it, and then now our firing pin will go in there. I can pull this forward. When you're putting this back in your gun, it has to be forward, because otherwise this will hit your upper receiver. I do put a little bit of oil on the firing pin, because as you saw, it got dirty. So a little bit of oil makes it easier to clean when I take it apart again. So won't hurt it, and any excess oil will just get blown out of your gun while you're shooting. So just put that right back here. Should fall right into place, and make sure it's all the way in. And then you put your retaining pin in. These sometimes get really bent and destroyed, but I've never thrown one away. This one still looks good, but sometimes you have to really like press and play with them until they fall into place. They need to go all the way in. So I'm gonna put this right here, and then I'm just gonna press, and this one is super easy. So you see it's flush right there. Again, if it's sticking out, it's not gonna go in your gun anyways, but that's basically it. So with the reassembly, I'm gonna put some oil on the charging handle. This really just keeps it smooth while you're charging the weapon. Doesn't actually help with shooting it, but just when you're pulling it back, it's metal rubbing on metal. So put it in the big hole right here. Then you're gonna let it fall into place wherever it'll fall into place. So right there. So you kind of tilt in, now it falls into place, push it forward just slightly. Now it's captured. I'm gonna put some oil on my bolt carrier group. I just put it kind of on like the protruding rails. I mean, they're tiny, but they're sticking out just enough. And that is metal rubbing against metal when it's in your gun. And you can see it turns silver the more you shoot it or rack the charging handle. And that's okay. Just put some oil there and you're good to go. So a little bit of oil on each side. And that's basically it. I also put some right here. And that's it. So now with this, again, your bolt has to be in the forward position. It will not go in when the bolt is back. So pull that forward, put it in the big hole, and then just line it up and just press it in and it'll click. So now it clicked in place. Now I'm gonna put my buffer and spring back in the lower. I didn't even wipe this down, but that's okay. So all you really need to do is just press it in and it'll fall right into place. Just press it all the way right there. Now it's captured. And then we have to push these pins back out before we put it on. And now we just line it up and put it back together. So just line all this up. I'm going to press the rear one first and then the front one. And now your whole gun's back together. We can function check it. So right now it's on safe. I'll rack the weapon. Make sure safety works. Where safety works, put it on fire. And everything works. And that is how you disassemble and reassemble the AR-15. So thank you guys for watching and stay tuned for my next video. Again, be sure to check out my website.